Guys, Rise of Skywalker has officially ended this brand new saga from Disney, and with that said, it's time to dive in and rank every single Star Wars trilogy from worst to best. We got 3 trilogies to talk about. I love Star Wars. I'm sure if you're here, you also love Star Wars, so make sure to comment down below. Let me know what your ranking is of all the trilogies. We got the prequels, the originals, and now the sequel trilogy for Star Wars, and it's going to be a fun discussion in that, guys. And if you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button, because tons of content always come towards you guys on a daily basis. All sorts of geeky stuff, early movie reviews, and things like that. So guys, without further ado, let's get started. Coming down at my number 3 is going to be the sequel trilogy from Disney. Now here's the thing, I've always mentioned this when talking about Star Wars, is that I do like every single Star Wars movie. I take the good, the bad, and the ugly with every single Star Wars movie, and this trilogy per se does have many issues when it comes down to the overlanding arc of the whole entire trilogy. It feels like there was no plan whatsoever, and that happens to be my one major issue with this whole entire trilogy. In fact, if this wasn't the issue, I think this could possibly even be the best trilogy yet. But the reason that it's not is because of there not being a plan and structure throughout the 3 films that are going about in here. Because when you start with Force Awakens and then you go straight to Last Jedi, you can tell they said, JJ, you do your thing, Ryan, you do your thing. Then, oh god, they didn't like what Ryan did. JJ, can you come back and course correct the series? And here's the thing again. I like each of these films. I think each of them are good. Force Awakens, my second favorite Star Wars film of all time. Last Jedi, while I do think that the rewatchability of it has gone down a little bit because of Rise of Skywalker and how it kind of retcons a lot of what happened in that film. Not everything, but retcons a lot. The thing with Last Jedi is I will contend it is a fantastically made film. Is it a great Star Wars film? That's for up to your debate. But I think as a film, it is a great made film. And when you look at Rise of Skywalker, I think it is easily the least best made movie, but it still feels like Star Wars, and I really liked it too. Probably give Force Awakens an A, maybe even A+. You look at Last Jedi, I would give it a B+ or an A-, and same thing for Rise of Skywalker, I'd give it a B+. And it just comes down into all those factors and everything that leads into it. But again, while I enjoy each and every one of the installments, it is that plot structure that just doesn't feel seamless throughout it, and you can feel them pulling at the strings and really not wanting everything you wanted it to be. Certain characters that they opened up in Force Awakens that I didn't think got the best light. Look at Finn and Poe. I wish there was a lot more development for them in, say, The Last Jedi and even in Force Awakens. And going into Rise of Skywalker, we do get a lot more of them, but they are so concerned with throwing out so many different things that you don't get all that by the end. And yes, even though I did feel satisfied by Rise of Skywalker, it just comes down to my last big thing with this trilogy is it just didn't feel planned out. And it's why it's my bottom favorite for all the trilogies. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I love Star Wars. I'll watch all these films if I wanted to. Any time of the day, I love to do a marathon. But it just comes down at last because it didn't feel like there was a plan. I love Star Wars. I hope the future of Star Wars can have a better planned out series and maybe even another trilogy. And Force Awakens, I love a lot of the moments in there. It's so rewatchable. Last Jedi opened up a lot of different doors and made Kylo Ren one of the most fascinating Star Wars villains ever. And when you look at Rise of Skywalker, it's an epic conclusion of a grand scale, while very fastly paced. It gives you a lot of the answers to a lot of the questions that Force Awakens opened up, and in that part, it did a good job, even if not all of them felt earned. But coming in at my number 2 is going to be the Prequel Trilogy. Now, I actually went back and forth on this one, and let me tell you why. The Prequel Trilogy arguably has the best structure when it comes to the story. It is seamless from the first film to the third film. You feel it throughout it. While yes, the dialogue is not the best. Yes, some of the visual effects definitely do not hold up to today's standards. And even a lot of the moments within the story are kind of like, really? This is going to happen? But George Lucas had a plan and a vision since the first film to the third film. And that is how it went about inside of here. You'll feel that very greatly throughout it. And while, again, I think Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars film ever made, I'll still watch it because I take even the ugly with Star Wars. The thing with this is I think Phantom Menace is a lot of fun. I think this trilogy is definitely more for kids. And it kind of grows with you as you're getting up to Revenge of the Sith. Like, if you were a young child when Phantom Menace came out, by the time you were older, you were finally ready to watch Revenge of the Sith. And it's great how he planned it out to be like that. Again, it's a great story structure throughout it as well. I love what they had in Phantom Menace. They opened it up with Obi-Wan being this young Padawan and him finally coming into his own to train Anakin for Attack of the Clones. You have him in there since, and then even if you dive into the whole Clone Wars cartoon series, it does add more to this element, but since we're not looking at that, we're looking into how Revenge of the Sith goes. And yes, is it a little bit fast when he turns into Darth Vader? Yeah. I don't, it doesn't feel earned, kind of not. But again, I don't think any Star Wars film is perfect besides one, and that's The Empire Strikes Back. But even though it felt very, bam, just, oh crap, he's going evil in that part, you can understand why. And I think a lot of it, yeah, we can nitpick about a lot of the dialogue and everything. And I'm not saying that these are better made films than the new ones. I'm just saying that when it comes down to a story structure, they knew exactly what they were going for, and I appreciated that part. And plus, I just love Revenge of the Sith. Like, my God, what an awesome film. Again, still cluttered with some of that dialogue elements to it, but it is truly a fantasy epic when it comes to Star Wars and when it comes to sci-fi films in its all entirety. Before we get any further into this video, guys, if you guys are new here, make sure again to hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below, let me know what your guys' thoughts are as well for this Star Wars ranking. And guys, if you have any other thoughts on what other Star Wars things you guys would love for me to rank, let me know down below in the comments. I would love to do that and have a great discussion with you guys as well for future videos. And of course, if you guys are new here and you guys want to check out films early, make sure to go head over to Sandwich on Films down below on how to see that. And plus, a big thank you to you and a big thank you to my Patreon supporters, because without you, I wouldn't be able to do this. Coming in at my number one, you guessed it. I mean, it's obvious. It's the original trilogy. Why wouldn't I put this at my number one? Yes, each of these films, and even if you do understand that they did not plan these out, but at least they looked at the last film and said, okay, well, let's add on to the next element. Okay, well, now let's add on to the next element. And if the sequel trilogy would have done that, it probably would have at least been my number two. That's just true. That's the truth in this whole entirety of everything, because the thing with the original trilogy, again, it wasn't planned out to where they had this, and that all planned out from the beginning. They planned it as they went. But there's a way of doing that and having a vision, having everyone on board, than giving one director something and giving another director something else. You look at A New Hope. It is excellent. It's a classic film in a sense. I mean, this whole trilogy is a classic. You look at it and you look at what films would be hailed as classics, this is one of them. A New Hope is a perfect film. It's fast-paced, it's brisk, it gets you into the world and gets you out. But at the same time, it's keeping you entertained and involved within this world. You look at Empire Strikes Back, which again I've said is the perfect, it's one of the best films ever made. It's also the best Star Wars film ever made. A lot of it goes into that reasoning of just being pure. It's a great movie. There's nothing wrong with this movie. I don't have any nitpicks with it. The twists, the turns, the revelations that you learn throughout it are excellent. The action is up to scale. The Battle of Hoth is one of the best battles ever had inside film, and even all the cinematography, the visual effects, all that holds up. But truly one of my favorite parts about it is Yoda training Luke. Then you go into Return of the Jedi, which for me is the weakest of the trilogy. That you could have a wholly different opinion. That's what's great. Film is very subjective. Return of the Jedi, for me personally, works and kind of doesn't. It feels like definitely a sequel to Empire Strikes Back, while also trying to be the very next sequel to, just like how Rise of Skywalker also felt like that, but it was like, instead of 2 different movies, it was like 3 different movies in there. And for me, I felt Return of the Jedi, it opens up, they gotta get Han Solo out of Jabba's palace and then move on to finishing the Empire. I like those 2 parallels. Yes, they do feel like 2 different movies, but I'm fine with it. It's fun, it's entertaining, and it all feels earned with every single character choice that happens throughout this series. And even adding into the prequels, it feels, in how it ties into it, especially within Darth Vader's character, it feels earned. Yes, there will be some comics or books or some sort of stuff that does tie in a little bit of stuff within the new trilogy. I think the thing that's really going to help this new trilogy, though, down in the future, is the way that they're going to be able to progress some of the characters that did stay alive throughout it. We're not going to go into it. Maybe some actually did die. Maybe some didn't. I'm kind of being vague in that part because I don't want to spoil it for you. But there are characters that I would likely be glad to see either before the events of Rise of Skywalker and after. And I'm curious in that whole entire part, guys. But guys, that's going to be my ranking of all the Star Wars trilogies. Let me know what your ranking is down below as well, guys. Thank you guys again so much for watching this. And of course, may the Force be with you all as we head into 2020. Have a Merry Christmas if I don't see you then. And of course, until next time, stay classy.